Born Primitive Outdoor is proud to partner with Montana Knife Company, Marsupial Gear, Evolution Outdoors, Sheep Feet, and Capture Gear. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsors. Welcome to the Born Primitive Outdoor podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Snyder, and today I have a longtime friend, Mark Strickland, the president of Crispi North America. I think I got all that right. Mark, I appreciate you coming on board.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I was talking to Jerry the other day. My memory's so bad, man. I thought I had you on the podcast. So I guess, one, thank you for hopping on the podcast, and one, and two, sir, I didn't have you on before. My bad. I'm trying to figure out how long we've known each other, 12, 14 years maybe?
I think so. Probably. I mean, it's been a long time. Early on, I think the first time I met you was in Salt Lake, right when we had brought Crispi into the North American market. And it was a Saturday, and I think we only had one or two boots, even in North America at the time. And we decided to go on a hike up Immigration Canyon. I don't know if you recall that, but it was years ago.
So that was in 15, I think. So 9-10 years. I think that was in 14 or 15. So yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time we'd met.
Yeah, long time. And then obviously you guys have grown, a lot. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get you, on the podcast. The main reason I wanted to get you on the podcast. I wear very specific and very weird boots, and I will say Mark is one of the only guys that's never given me shit about testing a ton of different other companies' boots. You've always been cool about it, appreciated the feedback, and it's always been great, to have. The other companies are not so cool with that. They want you to bleed their color and never try anything else. And I've always been a guy, like, if somebody asks me, I want to be able to say, hey, this boot fits really good for this type of foot or whatever. Well, I only wear 4 of your boots, and you offer 90 or something, right? And so I want to make sure I have you on board to talk about the company, how you've grown, and then I want you to answer some questions that I have because of the questions that I, get. So like you said, you only had 2 boots in the beginning. How many? I mean, your SKUs are a nightmare, I'm sure. How many boots do you offer now, or footwear do you offer now?
I think total SKUs, we have about 48 different boots right now, based across different models, colors, and things like that. So we have grown that a little bit. I don't know that we'll get too much wider than that in the future, but for right now, we feel pretty good at where we're at with the SKU count.
Yeah. And 48's a lot for footwear, unless you're somebody like, I don't know, Nike or something, I guess. I mean, you pretty much cover, everything. And my foot's weird, right? And you guys have always, I wouldn't say always or whatever, not given me crap. It's unique. Not that many people like an extremely stiff boot, but I've worn, a bunch of different, the Colorados, I've worn the Brickstalls, never really messed with the Nevadas, the Laponias, the one I wear around town, I can't remember the name of. And then you guys came out with the Alpine Pro, but that's a very small amount compared to what you offer.
Yeah, I think, one of the things, Aaron, that we've done, which is uniquely different than any other footwear brand, is that we have been able to design and build to the specific needs of the North American consumer. Specifically, the hunter is where we focus, a little bit in outdoor, but really that true hunting customer. And so we've been able to build and design and develop multiple products, hunter. And so when you start looking across all the different hunts, all the different uses, all the different feet, you mentioned, like, we don't really get upset if you're going to go try somebody else's boot. It's okay. We're not saying that our boot is perfect for every single foot and every single consumer. That would be very foolish of us. But for us, the thing that we're most known for is fit and feel. And so we have developed a lot of different things for fit and feel, from flexes to stiffnesses to width to bigger toe boxes, more mountaineering style type of things that can be really specific. And then sometimes we feel like, man, we're going down the rabbit hole a little bit. But for the most part, we feel like we have a pretty good assortment of different models that will fit across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, you offer, and I'll kind of chime in here from my, 2 cents. You offer multiple different types of, I guess you could say not leathers, but like leather. I mean, you have boots with more synthetic, less synthetic, all leather, 90% leather where the tongue may be synthetic. So there's a lot of options with that. And, where I get people that ask me questions on footwear, the number one thing is fit. And I try to hey, I can tell you if it's durable or not, but if it fits me, it does not mean it's going to fit, someone else. Everybody's build is different. I will say European model style footwear is narrow for the most part. So you look at a Scarpa and a La Sportiva, for example. Whether that's our caveman days, our feet were wider and Europeans were, I don't know, right? But most Americans, I would say, from my experience, have a wider foot than narrower. And some may be a wider heel cup or a narrow heel cup and a wider foot. That's been my experience. Have you seen that more? It seems like the U.S., we like a wider boot.
We do. Like, for example, in Europe, first of all, most sizes, or the sizes in Europe, all come in full sizes. So 8, 9, 10, 11, things like that. And so they don't do a lot of half sizes. Half sizes are a little bit unique in that regard. And so when we built boots, we built them on 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5. So we build them on the half size. As far as widths go, Europeans do traditionally have narrower feet, where the North American market has a little bit of a wider foot. And so when we start looking, 28 to 27% of our sales are wides, which is really high for a footwear company to have that high of just wide boots. We build our particular models on a North American last. And so we build them a little bit more generous so that we can fit a majority of the people. And then our wides are obviously a little bit wider so that we can really fit the guys that have a much wider foot.
Yeah, and when, like with me, I always suggest for people to slide their toe as far forward as they can. They should be able to get one finger behind their heel for black toe with heavy weight, going downhill or whatever else. But, if you're going to wear an aftermarket insole, you definitely need more room, in the toe box specifically. And so, if you get one that starts out narrow to begin with, but it fits you, but it's close, if you try to throw an aftermarket insole in there, you're going to have problems. So I think, the fit, like you said, the foot box is a big one, the number of different options that you offer. But for the most part, the majority of your boots break in. Well, I say the majority, all the ones that I wear, even that Alpine Pro, which I was a little bit worried about because it's a stiffer boot, they break in pretty quickly, pretty easily. They're very comfortable. The thing that, I want to ask you or Pete need to comment on, whether it's backpacks or boots or clothing or whatever else, when you go extremely lightweight, you got to pay the tollman somewhere. You do lose durability when you go with a very lightweight piece of gear. And I kind of want you to comment on that. Do you run into issues with that? Because you offer some very lightweight boots that are very comfortable. Do people know that ahead of time? You can't expect this boot to last for 5 years with heavy use? I mean, talk a little bit about that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm honest. I'm very surprised when I see boots that come back to our office. We'll get boots that guys said, hey, I've worn these for 3 months, and they have completely walked the outsoles off of them. But they've also put 500 or 600, 700 miles. There is a lifespan to a boot or product, just like tires on cars. If you put a tire on a car, you drive 25, 30,000 miles, it's going to show some wear, pretty good wear. And so when we try to do lighter, I think, let's use, for example, our Laponia, which is a very good selling boot for us. It has very small lugs on the outsole. It has an EVA midsole. And so, if you're putting a lot of miles, you're putting a lot of heavy loads on that. Over time, that's going to wear out, fairly soon. And I think, I had a guy in our office this morning that said, hey, my son wears that boot, killed an elk last fall. He was back 4 or 5 miles in the backcountry, ended up hauling it out. The boot held up fine, but his ankles were killing. And he said he wished he would have had like a Nevada or a Guide or a Brickstall or something like that to give him a little bit more ankle support, a little bit more support through there. And so when you start talking lightweight, like for example, as far as the Gore-Tex in that boot, it's the same Gore-Tex that we run in all of our boots. The EVA midsole is the same that we run in other boots. We try to lighten in other ways. We might use, different leathers to lighten out a little bit. We'll use some synthetic materials in there. We'll also use just things that don't have the density on there. So I think for the most part, as far as will it hold up? Yes, it'll hold up. But at the same time, there is a difference between wearing a super lightweight boot and like one of what I would say like a Brickstall or a Nevada or a Guide that may have a little bit more strength to them, a little bit more durability to them as far as the materials in them. But if you want a lightweight product, as you're going to have to compromise something to get the weight down.
Yeah, and I guess I'm probably more... I very rarely send a product back. And I'm not talking footwear, I'm talking everything. Because unless it fails out of the gate,
sure,
I'm putting it through, I'm going to probably get some hate mail for this. I can tell you that I strongly dislike people that use a product for a year and send it back. Now, I'm not speaking for Crispi. Mark does not pay me. I'm not affiliated with Crispi in that way. Mark and I are friends. I like some of the boots and I wear the boots. If you use a boot for a year and send it back, I think you're an asshole, is bottom line. Like, you've used the boot for a year. And when I say that, if you worn it once in a year, I'm talking you use it every day. You're in the field, you beat it up, and in a year it starts leaking. I personally don't like that. That's like a lifetime guarantee on a fly rod. It's like, hey, okay, if it was manufacturer defect, that's a different story. But the life expectancy of footwear of heavy use is they do not last forever. You could make a boot to last for quite some time. It weighs 7 pounds or more, but
that's right.
And I'm not speaking for Mark here. This is Aaron Snyder speaking. If you use a boot for a year with heavy use and you put hundreds of miles on it and it starts to leak in a year, I think that you should grab some waterproof material, clean it up, and then put some grease on there and call it good, because you cannot expect things to last forever. That's my personal opinion. I'm not trying to get you in trouble here. What are your thoughts on that? Then we don't even have to use boots. Pick something else.
No, I agree with you. Right? There is, you're kind of going down the road of warranty, right? And so warranty falls under manufacturer defect, right? You get a boot, sole peels off, stitching comes out, after a reasonable amount of time. There is wear and tear, right, which falls under warranty. But I do agree with you. And the fact is that, you go out and wear a product and you wear it for, let's say, a year. Like, your example, when it starts to leak, there's multiple things that could have happened there, right? You could have punctured the Gore-Tex bladder in that. You could have cut it. You could, the inner parts of that boot potentially could have started to come apart, under load or under wear and tear, under hydrolysis. There's a lot of factors that happen in those things, right? And I think sometimes consumers feel like, man, this product should last me forever type of thing. I paid $400, $450, $500 for this boot. And I still come back to my example of tires. You go run a tire in your car for a year and go take it back to the tire store. They're going to be like, this is not defective. You have ran these for, 30,000 miles. They're going to have some wear and tear on them. I would keep running them until they run out, and then we'll get you a new pair. So, yeah, I do share that same sentiment with you. I think that, if there's a defect or if there's an issue with that boot, you'll know very quickly into it. Now, there's obviously those cases where things do happen. In our office, when you say, hey, our product leaks or different things, we bring it back, we test them, we put them in water, we test them, and if it does, we're good about replacing those things. But it is a fine balance, as you know. You've been on the consumer side, you've been on the manufacturing side as well. At the end of the day, you want to take care of people, but at the same time, you also have to be forthright and understand, like, yeah, I have potentially put that product, whether it's boots or backpacks or coats or anything, through maybe a life expectancy that it happens. And, guides are a perfect example in this. These guys spend, 100, 120 days in 120 days in the mountains, and these guys wear out product. They wear out the knees in pants, they wear out the crotches in pants, they wear out coats from the backpacks rubbing on their shoulders. They wear boots out, and, it's okay to wear something out and then replace it. And we look at both. We can resole a boot, but sometimes even when guys bring a boot back in and we say, hey, I want this resoled, we'll come back to them and say, listen, your upper and the lasting in this boot has changed, and so it's going to affect us putting a new sole on this boot.
I'm going to take that from you for a second to put more context in this, because I really try to tell guys, look, if you smoke down the boot to where the basically you've rolled your ankles outside or your foot outside so much that the last is stretched to the outside, and you basically have an imprint on that boot. When you resole it, it could wear out 2 to 3 times faster than it did when you got it, because you're already walking poorly to the outside, so you're going to burn out the outside of that sole quicker. And so I strongly suggest for people to not resole a boot unless you walk perfectly, because you're not going to get, and you can, Mark, if any time you say I'm an idiot, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I tell, do not do it. Get a new boot, right? Don't do it, because it'll wear out twice as fast at least than it did before.
Yeah, you're changing the last for sure, right? Like when you rip that midsole off and put a new sole on, which we do multiple times per week, they turn out pretty well. But you're running the risk a little bit of, you've changed the integrity structure of the original construction of that boot. No different than, if you get a little fender bender, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes your car just never really runs the same again, right?
Well, it isn't any different than alignment. If your body's alignment is off, like a car's alignment, that alignment's off, it's going to wear the tire out like the outer edge will be worn out before the inner. If you're supinated or pronated, you're going to walk on the inside or outside. And you can tell, like me, I'm a heel striker. I walk on the outside of my feet. It's the first thing to go.
Yeah.
And if I had somebody resole a boot, it just wouldn't be worth it, because the cost of the resole is not going to be worth the time that I get out of it after paying for having it resoled. So I really discourage people to I just tell them to get a new boot.
Yeah. Well, we prefer to buy a new boot, right? That's the business we're in. So I'm with you.
Well, and I'm not saying that because Mark's on the phone. I'm saying that because I made the mistake of resoling a few different sets. Yeah. These are my lucky boot. They're broken in. And then I got them, and they were great. And when I say that, in the first 2 weeks of mountain hunting, I was like getting massive wear. Well, a podiatrist was like, dude, you're pronated, I guess, outsides of my feet. And I'm a heel striker, and then when I'm going fast, I'm a toe runner. He's like, you're destined to screw a boot up quicker than anyone else because of how you walk or whatever. So, but it happens.
Well, you look at like a runner, right? For example, guys that are big time runners. These guys will wear running shoes. Now they're soft, but they'll wear running shoes, and they know the exact mileage that they take those shoes and just throw them in the trash, or they just give them to somebody as a gift to wear around. They have an expectancy of a wear that they know when these shoes, running shoes, no longer provide them the comfort or the support that they need to be a runner.
Yeah. Well, and when you're looking at while we're talking about this, when you look at a boot, I'm going to take the Alpine Pro for example, and I'm very detailed with my. I give Mark feedback on these boots, every 2 weeks, right? Like, hey, Mark, went through 9 miles of swamp, no leaks, rocking strong, whatever, I'll go through, just because I abuse stuff more than most, right? And so I want to make sure Mark understands when I hit the life expectancy of that boot, and Mark knows me well enough to know if that Alpine Pro makes it 2 seasons, that is a very, very large victory for me. And I'm looking at this as a consumer who also purchases footwear. And so, when you're buying a boot, if you buy your altitude, I'm going to use that for an example. My girlfriend wants to get some. She gets that altitude. She's going to be okay for, I would guess, at least 2 years, right? She's going to go with me, but I'm not throwing 100 pounds on her back. Not going to put her in the cliffs. That boot is an amazingly comfortable boot. For me, if you put that on my foot and I go on let's say I'm guiding goat hunters, what would you guess, Mark, that boot would last me goat hunting in rough terrain?
A hunt, maybe 2 hunts. I mean,
I was going to give it a little bit more. Yeah, I was going to give it a little more than that. It is not, what I'm saying is, without me getting too hyped up, it's not made for that, people. Don't buy it.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's an antelope hunting boot. That's a go to the 3D course boot. That's a whitetail scouting boot. Like, that's not a boot made to go in rough terrain. Now, you can do it, and South Cox does it all the time. You just know you're going to need to replace it often. And that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and that's where we get, when we start talking about different boots, right? We try to make sure we understand our customer. Like, if you called me and said, hey, Mark, I'm going on a sheep hunt. We're going to BC. We're going to be back there for 3.5 weeks. We're going to be off-grid. There's no way I would send you with that boot. There's not a chance. I would send you with Alpine Pro. I would send you with Brickstall. I would send you with, something that is leather that's going to really hold up, because you're in this steep, rugged terrain. Your foot is moving around in that boot. You're shifting. You're side hilling. You're breaking it down. The Altitude is an amazing boot. Laponi, amazing boot, but they're not really designed specifically for that. So, and we, I have a good buddy that does a ton of guiding, and his favorite boot is the Thor. It's a 4 on our flex rating. It's super lightweight. Doesn't have any ankle support, and he'll wear that boot 12 months out of the year, and he'll wear it all over the world to guide, because his feet are used to it, his ankles are used to it. He has the strength, but he loves that boot, and it fits him well. He has the confidence to take it anywhere, and so that's one specific thing. But to your point on where you would take that boot, the Altitude on that specific boot would not be it. And so as a brand, that's where we have come and said, we built different boots for different applications. And so fortunately for us, people want to hear this, but, we don't just have one boot. We do have boots. The Nevada, for example, one of our top selling boots. It's a leather traditional boot. You can wear that anywhere. If you're going to go on a sheep hunt, you could wear it. You probably want something just a little bit higher, but if that's the boot that is affordable for your wallet, then I would recommend, hey, that would be a good boot for you. And then you could come home and you could wear it elk hunting, you could wear it deer hunting, you could go on turkey with that boot.
You wear it on a job site. It's a good job site.
Absolutely. 100%. And so we've got boots for that. And so, but when you're going to go specifically to a certain hunt that really has an application of steep terrain, rugged, we want to make sure we get you in the right boot with the right flex. That's another part which we should probably discuss, is flex, but that would be, I think that's where we'd be at.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about flex, I want to make sure people understand this, because you and I, at Kindle at one point, we talked a lot about the weirdness of me, that I have extremely strong ankles. I want a very stiff, low-cut boot. I don't need a higher-cut boot. I mean, the Brickstall doesn't bother me, but I can get away with a 7-inch tall or height-wise boot that is extremely stiff, because I have strong ankles. I like the stiffness with heavy weight and a little more durable. When you get a boot that stiff, it's generally going to be more durable by default. But there's not that many people that are going to, I say not that many people, there's people out there, but people need to know what they're getting into when they get a boot like that, because like you said, if you have weak ankles, there's not going to be as much ankle support as a Brickstall SF, let's say. And so, for me, I'll run into guys that wear basically moccasins hunting and can get away with it for a while, right? And it's like, okay, what kind of foot do you have? What kind of stiffness do you need? And do you actually know what you need? And when I say that, if you've never mountain hunted, it's a big gamble to go wear a very flexible boot on a mountain hunt. And there's people that can do it. But overall, I'd say you're kind of gambling, on that. But go ahead and kind of take it from there on the stiffness and the flex.
Yeah, so talk about flex for a minute. So, when you take, let's take, for example, like you, for example, and your circle of influence of people that you're around with. You guys are in the mountains a lot. You carry heavy packs. You're used to it. You know what to expect. You know what kind of terrain. And so you guys, you and kind of your circle of influence, they have a really good idea of that. Let's just take the general hunter, so to speak. The guy that is a tradesman, software guy, a guy that works in an office, where it is around the country. Maybe he's back east, maybe he's in the Midwest. Let's say they draw a tag to come out to the west, to deer hunt, elk hunt, whatever it is. For the most part, those guys aren't used to or prepared to go and do what you're used to doing. And so, to put them in a boot that is unbelievably stiff, it might be way too much for them on that. And so many years ago, like when we first brought Crispi into the United States, one of the things that we realized early on was that people would say, well, how stiff is that boot? And what's the flex like? And so we created this flex rating between 1 and 5 because this was a huge problem that people, they couldn't relate to how stiff this boot was. They're like, well, I wear Nike running shoes. And it's like, well, there's no boot that soft, right? And so we created this flex rating. And this flex rating, Aaron, it's very dependent. This is basically a flex rating that we built for Crispi boots specifically. It doesn't go for any other boot. And it's based on the outer, the upper material, whether that's leather, synthetic, nylon stretch tongue, whether it has a leather tongue, then it has the last, and then it has based on the EVA or the rubber PU midsole, and then the outsole, the thickness of that, and then the actual board last itself. We have boots that have the same board last, but have different stiffnesses based on the upper construction, the midsole or the outsole, and so that's how you kind of break up the flex rating on those things. And so we try to be really careful when we start talking to people that don't necessarily spend, 20, 30, 40, 50 days up in the mountains, but guys that are saying, listen, I want a good all-around boot, something that I can be comfortable in, something that I can wear, but is going to perform. And so that's really important on that side of it. So, if you get a boot that's too soft, you kill a big deer or a big elk, or you're hauling a sheep or a goat out of the mountains, your ankles and knees, and as you're aware, are going to feel that. You're going to have a little bit of, fatigue, and you're going to have some issues potentially. And so having the boot that has the right stiffness for you is, I believe, a very important component of having a successful hunt, or even just being in the mountains and enjoying the footwear that you have. So there's nothing that ruins a hunt faster than a bad piece of footwear. Like you might forget your raincoat, and you can still function. You can still hide out. You can get some protection, things like that. But if you forget your boots, or you have a bad pair of boots, or they don't fit properly, it's going to be a pretty tough experience for you.
Yeah, and on the on the fit specifically for my experience just dealing with, questions or whatever else, generally the heel rub is the big one. And so depending upon if you have like a deep or shallow heel cup or whatever, like you don't, and I'm going to give my spiel on this and I'm going to have Mark take it away and tell me if you think I'm an idiot or not. But in my opinion, if you know what you're looking for, slide your toe forward like I talked about, get the correct spacing, and then go and kick your foot back as tight against the heel as you can. Tighten the boot up. And if you go over to, you only need one step, really. If you go over and you start doing heel drops on that step and you're feeling rub, that boot is probably never going to fit you. You're not going to break the heel rub out of that thing if it's major heel rub. And when I say that, I'm used to, I've worn enough boots that I can tell literally with one step and doing heel drops. And when I say that, when you buy a pair of boots and Mark sends you or Crispi sends you boots out and you go do 10 miles, having an allergy attack here, and you go and say they don't fit, you really can't expect Mark to take them back, right? You need to figure that out without doing damage to the boot. Usually stairs and heel drops are going to tell you if you get heel rub pretty quickly. And if you get heel rub and it's major heel rub, that's probably never going to come out and you need to swap to a different boot. If it's minor and you've been chilling all winter long and your heels aren't built up, that's a little bit different story. You can get a little callus built up and you'll be fine, but major heel rub is never going away and you need to get a different boot. And again, that's my opinion, and you kind of take it from there.
I agree with that. If you're having a challenge right out of the box, I don't believe that problem is going away. Like I don't know that you necessarily break the heel in of a boot, right? So to speak. I think if you're having a little bit of trouble right out of the box, I don't know that problem's going away. What I would say is you probably need to try a different model. That may not be the right boot for you. Maybe a different brand potentially. Now, can it pack out a little bit where you get, can you get it fit? Yeah, you can. But I think, like Aaron said, I think if you're having trouble right out of the box, I don't believe that problem is going away. That may just be the wrong fit for you.
Yeah, and I would say, though, your heel cup is a little bit different from one boot to the next. Not all of them. Yeah. Some of them are mirror images of each other. But if you take, a Brickstall I can wear out of the gate, Alpine Pro I can wear out of the gate, no problem. But the Laponia fits a little bit differently from me compared to those. And so, for example, I oddly enough can throw Alpine Pro or Brickstalls on and do 12 miles out of the house straight uphill with no problem. The Laponia, I get a little heel rub in the Laponia. Now, as I say that, I wear the Laponia all the time, but I get a little bit of heel rub with the Laponia. Now, my heels have been beaten up enough. It's really not that big of a deal. But if I made a 2-mile climb and gained 2,000 feet in elevation, I'm going to feel it on the Laponia, where the stiffer, technically harder to break in boot, like an Alpine Pro or Brickstall, isn't going to give me it. It's not that the Brickstall or the Alpine Pro is easier to break in, because it's certainly not, but it fits my foot correctly. So while it is, air quotations, breaking in as I'm climbing, I'm not getting major pressure or heel rub that's going to basically do a KIA on me. Because once you get a blister the size of a quarter on the back of your heel, you're pretty much worthless, right? And that's where I'm saying this for the benefit of both Crispi and the user. Don't be a knucklehead and go wear it around and try to send it back, because they should not take that back. You've ruined that boot because you put wear on it. You get it, you mail order it, no big deal. I've mail ordered boots my entire life. Go to your steps, start doing heel drops, walk up and down. If it's good to go, you're good. Now, if it's a little bit tight somewhere or whatever, I think you can break that in, right? That's not a big deal. The heel, though, that's, again, you don't break that in. Now, I had a guy contact me today, for example. He's getting pinching in his ankle of, I think it was altitudes. Colorados. He's getting pinching in the ankle of the Colorado. The lacing system of every boot is differently. You can skip a lace. So for this guy, I was like, well, just skip a lace. He's like, what? And some people just can't fathom skipping a lace. And I'm like, the one that goes around your ankle where you got a pinch point, skip it. Like, there was no book written, by the good Lord that said you have to hit every lace, right? I've worn many boots where I skip a lace, because what it is the way that thing wraps around your ankle. A pack belt is no different. You're putting excess pressure on your ankle, and your ankle may specifically have a vein or something sticking out or a pinch point in your ankle, where that one pressure point from that lace is causing it to feel pain. Just skip the lace. If the boot fits perfectly, skip the lace. It does not matter. Go ahead.
You're going to get that, right? When you, especially where that flex point is between, your top of your foot and your ankle, there's a flex point there. And a lot of boots, ours and many other brands, you want to use that lace lock, right, to lock the heel in, so to speak. And I've watched many guys just crank down the front, the toe of a boot, almost to where they're pulling the whole boot together from inside to outside, pulling it together, which is not a good fit. And then they're cranking that lace lock down so tight, because like, I don't want my heel to move. And then they'll lace up the top. Well, to your point, is sometimes, your ankle still got a flex there, and you're right. It potentially, sometimes it can rub. And so you have to be aware of that. That is something that can happen. So we've had to go back actually in production on a couple of models. Brickstall, for example, was one where guys were, the top of their foot years ago it was getting rubbed a little bit raw from the lace rubbing, because there wasn't really enough protection right across that flex point. And so we went back in during production and added in some protection in the actual tongue of the boot to protect that flex point a little bit. And since then, we've never had another problem. Occasionally, a guy here or there will have an issue with that, but absolutely, if you're gonna crank that boot down and lace lock it in to the level that is stressing that or putting so much pressure on your foot, you potentially could get some rubbing there. So regardless of brand.
Yeah, and I say this, it wasn't the lace lock loop that was bugging him, it was the one above that. And
one above, okay.
And that's the one where I'm like, the lace lock one, you really probably shouldn't skip that one. But
no.
Yeah, that one you want to hit. But other laces other loops you can skip if it is a pressure point. And there's different lacing methods or whatever else. But as far as like, he's like, man, I love the boot, but fits perfect, better than any boot I ever had, but I get a pinch point here. And I'm like, well, skip that. And it was like 20 minutes later, he messaged me. He's like, dude, I never thought of that. And I'm like, well, and again, the lace lock one you want to hit, but when you're getting into the fit and everything else, like break-in times on boots are really, I don't want to get blasted over this, kind of, to me, a miss. If the boot fits you correctly, they should be fairly somewhat comfortable out of the gate and only get better as you wear them. Now, back in the day when you were wearing West Coast or Whites, full leather logging boots or whatever, you got to break in some of that older kind of rougher, stiffer leather. But with technology now, the break-in time is not, you can wear around town for a day and they're pretty much broken in. There's not like back in, people would say you had to walk 50 miles. If you got to walk 50 miles to make a boot comfortable, and again, my opinion, I'm not speaking for Mark, something is probably wrong. That thing should fit pretty dang well in the first 5 minutes, and in the first 5 miles should feel real good. And if it's something you're wearing for 50 miles to break in and it's still uncomfortable, there's probably a problem there. But I don't want to speak out of turn. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, breaking is always tough, right? And obviously with Crispi, we don't really have a break-in period. I agree with you. The boots fit or they don't. We get guys that come in and we put boots on them and off they go for a 5-day hunt, 6-day hunt without even breaking them in. They're like, yeah, they're perfect and great. I think some of it too, Aaron, though, is, technology. right? Technology has changed. Innovation has changed. The way we glue boots has changed. The way that, the materials have changed, things like that. That whole inner construction of a boot is so important. Now, there are brands out there that their construction internally hasn't changed for years. They just build it and keep making it. From our side, we develop stuff all the time, and so we want to do that. But you're right. I mean, if you put a boot on, you should be able to wear that boot, and you should be able to go and use that boot without a whole lot of problem. If you put that boot on and it's like so stiff, maybe that's not particularly the boot for you. If you feel like, man, this is way too stiff, it's going to take forever to break in, maybe you should look for a boot that maybe isn't quite so stiff, that gives you a little bit more flex or a little bit more forgiveness, and that might be a really, really good option for you, or even a better boot for you to wear out in your hunt. Because you're right, because sometimes, you've heard it, I've heard it, it's like, man, I've worn the boot for 50 miles and I still haven't broken it in. So,
Yeah, that kind of makes me squeamish when I hear that. I'm like, that's not good, right? Because it's probably not getting any better. And I'll kind of shift to the Alpine Pro because, for me, that boot, I'll just say it. I wore, there's a specific boot I wore from another brand forever that was my go-to mountain hunting boot. The Brickstall got close to taking that one over. But that boot was heavy. And when I say the one from another company, that boot was heavy, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but when you got to lug them around every day, that's, wearing ankle weight sucks. That's a great boot, the boot I was wearing. And I've worn it forever and it's been great for me. But when you came out with the Alpine Pro, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a whirl, right? And so because it was literally kind of more modeled to my liking, I like a little bit lower height. I don't want a 10, 12 inch, even a 9 inch is a little high for me. I'm more of an 8 to 7 inch guy. I want it fairly stiff, but I want it to be a little bit more nimble on my feet, which is a very hard dynamic to find in a boot because you're asking the boot to do more stuff than it should. Meaning you wear a mountaineering boot and you're not going to be overly nimble, right? It's just not going to happen because they're like a ski boot. And so with that Alpine Pro, I think I got them from you and I wore them 2 weeks. And then I called and ordered a second set because I always have a backup set of boots. I have a backup set of everything that I do. I'm one of those weird guys. I have to have 2 of everything. But that specific boot is kind of what I would call a unicorn because you can be fairly nimble with it. I say that quick on your feet. You can be pretty dynamic in your movements with that boot, but it still is stiff and would do. I could antelope hunt in that boot, elk hunt, sheep hunt, goat hunt. It wouldn't matter to me. I could hunt whatever in it, but that's more of a unicorn. Now that's again me speaking. What were you trying to do when you were coming out with that Alpine Pro? Am I describing what you were hoping for, or were you looking at doing something else with it? And it just happened to work.
No. Yeah, no, I think that this particular Alpine Pro is a very niche boot that we actually have had. I've actually had a pair. In fact, Luke had the pair, Luke Adillo, and they were yellow. They looked like Big Bird boots. And they were in my office, and people would come in my office and be like, whoa, those boots are pretty bright and pretty unique. And I'm like, you should try them on. And they would put them on, and they are like, wow, the fit on this boot is unbelievable. Like, it snugs my foot. And I don't know if you felt the same way. I think you have. This really snugs my foot. Like, the fit is unbelievable. And so I think we were actually trying to build a boot that was more mountaineering style, built for guys that want a really, really stiff boot, that have stronger ankles, that spend a lot of time in the mountains. They can really adjust the lacing based on the asymmetrical lacing system that goes all the way down the boot itself, so they could get kind of more of a customized fit on there. We wanted it to be super light, and we also wanted it to be synthetic so that it would dry out really quickly, because we knew the guys that wear this boot, for the most part, generally speaking, are going to be in a little bit wetter climates, slick terrain. So we wanted to be able to dry out and be super user friendly for those guys. So this boot is not for everybody. I will say that. It is unique in the fact that the fit it narrows down a little bit the toe box area. It's super lightweight though, and it's stiff. And so we built it like that. We felt like we were kind of missing that little piece in our lineup of having a really super, super stiff boot that was synthetic, lightweight, that could handle, anything that was really in steep terrain. So that's really kind of was our objective when we built that boot specifically. It's very niche.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm that guy, right? And that's kind of the thing. When I say that guy, I'm the guy that would want a boot like that. And so I want to make sure and not speak out of context, because I don't want people ordering it that aren't going to like it. But I would say if you're pretty rough on gear or footwear, 1, 2, you do a lot of mountain hunting, whether that be elk, goat, sheep, you're up high a lot, and you like a little bit lower boot, that Alpine Pro is definitely the boot, for you, or one to take a look at if the fit is correct. Sure. It is light enough. But if you don't like a stiffer, boot, I don't know that you're gonna. If you're on the border, you're probably good. But like if you're somebody that, throws, I don't know, I guess like you throw a Laponia on and you're happy as a pig in poop, probably not digging on the Alpine Pro, right? It is a stiffer boot. But how has that boot, done? Because I know, like initially, talking with you guys on stiffness and kind of that very niche boot, is it doing good, bad? Like, is it something that you're like, oh, this did better than I thought? Because it's a gamble coming out with a boot like that, because it's not for everybody.
It's a huge gamble, right? Like, it's a huge gamble, but we ordered based on production. I think we've been in this business long enough. We know where our sales are on 5 flex boots. They're good, but you're not getting these mass volumes out of them that, you hope. They're not specifically really going to a lot of retailers. We've got a few retailers around the country that do carry it. The boot itself, we brought it out in April. It's currently sold out on our website. I think there's just a few sizes here and there, but we do have a few retailers in the country that do have that boot still. But it is a very niche boot itself, and it's done exactly what we wanted it to do. The guys that understand the flex of a boot, the stiffness, the weight that they want, this boot fits them very, very well. So, it's very, very interesting. But it is a niche boot, and that's really what we built it for.
Gotcha. What is your, as a guess, I would say you're probably Laponia, Nevada, and one of the brick stalls. Are those your top sellers? That's a guess, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's you get altitude is right there. We've got Nevada non-insulated, Laponia, Colorado brick stall. Those are all fantastic boots for us. Just because they have such a wide range of fit to them. So those are all good boots for us.
Gotcha. Well, if people are looking, I put this as clearly as possible. If people are looking at getting a higher end set of boots, or of maybe, I don't know if I get in trouble for this, have worn I'm not even going to mention other companies' names. There's some lower model boots out there that people will buy just because they're cheaper. If they're looking to upgrade their boot, what would you suggest, like the kind of top to bottom, soup to nuts of what to look at when choosing? Obviously fit is number one, the flex, things like that. But what would you suggest for people to kind of go through as they're kind of perusing the website?
And Aaron, this as well as anybody, it's easy to hype a product, right? Guys, it's easy to jump on the bandwagon. It's like, oh, I love the Laponia because everybody's wearing the Laponia, or I love, the Alpine because Aaron loves the Alpine Pro. And, you have to really look and say, okay, where do I hunt? Where do I live? What is the use that I'm going to really be go, do I want a leather boot? Do I want a synthetic boot? Do I want a breathable, a non-insulated, or an insulated boot? Just some of the basic questions, right? Now, if budget isn't a problem for you, you probably should buy a couple pairs of boots. You could have an early season boot, a mid-season, and a late season boot. But if budget doesn't permit that, then you got to look at an all-around boot and say, okay, what is it that what's going to really benefit me for the most? And so that's what I think for that. And then you say, okay, let me help narrow it down and say, you know what? I want an all-leather boot. I want it to be able to go across all seasons. I need to wear that from scouting in, May, June, July, August, and I need to be ready for a fall hunt. And so, it might be like, well, maybe a Nevada or, a Colorado or something like that might be a better option for you. If they're non-insulated, you want some leather, things like that. Well, if it's like, listen, I'm an early season, I'm an archery hunter, and I want some lightweight, breathable, then we have, 4 or 5 options for you that you can really go between. That you want to make sure you have the right fit, and you can go from that direction. So I think that's for us. It's not about like, oh, hey, Crispi needs just to sell more boots to you. That doesn't do us any good, just to sell more boots. What does us good is that we get you in the right boot, the right fit, because if we do that, then we know you're going to come back and you're going to purchase additional boots that will already fit you and you already have the confidence in what you're buying. So I think that for us is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And again, like fit's the big one. So when you order a boot, do what Mark and I've talked about. Don't take them outside. Don't wear them on pavement. Wear them around the house. Wear them up and down the stairs. Because if you send them in to exchange them and you've damaged them, even walking down the road will damage the bottom. Like they have to be resellable. Just wear them on carpet in the house. And if there is a doubt in your mind, usually your gut instinct is the right one. Get another set. And again, I say, like, don't risk it, because again, you're going to be out what are your average boots? Are probably $380, right? For outdoor backpack hunting type boot.
Yeah, probably up a little bit more, probably in the 420, 400 range, on that, but close. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
but I think one thing too is that media is beneficial, and we encourage people to do is order 2 sizes. If you're a 9, and maybe you fudge toward the 9.5, then order a 9 and a 9.5, and try them on side by side, because there's nothing worse than ordering a 9, doesn't fit. Send me a 9.5. You get the 9.5, like, well, I don't know if this fits, and then you're back in the same predicament. Order a 9 and a 9.5. Wear them side by side in your house. You'll know immediately, hey, this works and this doesn't work, and then send the other one back. So I think that's something that is important too. Like, take your time and fit yourself properly, because this is Aaron, as you well know, you've been on many hunts where you've been with guys or yourself that your feet have gotten torn up, or their feet have gotten torn up, and it ruins it, man. It crushes you.
Oh yeah, and that's again where, you what Mark said, because one, it's frustrating, right? 2, it can end the hunt. 3, it's expensive. So you definitely want to get the fit right out of the gate. And again, your gut instinct is the right one generally when you're worried about footwear. And I've pissed away, I don't know, a depressing amount of money on footwear. I remember when South Cox and Cameron did a video 2 decades ago. Cameron wore stiff boots, South wore flexible. I tried flexible. I destroyed my feet because I wanted to be like cool guy South Cox, try something different. And then, I've tried a bunch of different, I haven't had blisters in my feet for a very, very long time, because I'm not an idiot anymore, and I don't risk it for the biscuit. If it doesn't seem like it fits right, I don't wear it. And I'm very, very careful about that. And also, I make sure I get people seem to have downsizing boots more than upsize. I would say upsizing, if you're on the border, has generally been a better recommendation than downsizing. So if you're, and Mark, you may disagree with that, but usually if you're on the border, I would say go up a little, not down.
Yeah, we always say yes. I mean, it's, we always say when you put your foot in that boot, if you just put your foot flat in that boot and your toes, if they graze the front of that boot, you need to go up a half a size. You need to have a little bit of room there. Otherwise, you're going to get black toes really quickly. It doesn't matter what boot you're wearing. When you start going downhill with a pack, you're going to hit the front of that boot pretty hard, and it'll be a challenge for you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, cool, man. We're about to hit an hour. Is there anything else you want to kind of touch on before we hop off the podcast?
Man, if you had some other, if there's other things that you want to run across, I'm happy to discuss them with them, from manufacturing to distribution.
I mean, I guess the
whatever.
I mean, the number one thing is your boots are made in Italy. And I guess what I want to make sure, and you have direct contact at a very high level with the boot manufacturer, meaning you guys fly over there, you go chat with them, you have a very good personal relationship with that manufacturer in Italy, which is great. And if I'm saying anything wrong, tell me. And that is your price going to be affected from the tariffs, coming from Italy?
So, first question, as far as manufacturing goes, Crispi is a 50-year-old boot company this year, which is a really cool thing. It's handmade in Italy. We are the manufacturer. We're just the North American distribution arm of this, and we create, develop, and design all the boots that come into North America. The stuff that's being built in Europe and for the European markets and stuff is a little bit different, but colorways and stiffnesses and design and things like that, those are coming right out of our office that we work with our R&D guys in Italy with very closely. I'm on the phone in Italy probably 3 or 4 days a week, and we are very, very close. I mean, it's there's no divide there. I mean, we're one of the only companies that really owns our own factory in Italy, outside of maybe 1 or 2 other brands. Everything else is built through different companies and things like that. So on that part of it, to answer your question on tariffs it's a tough thing right now, and if you're in products, that there's an expense. I think we're currently right now paying between $50,000 and $100,000 a week in reciprocal products that is coming in. And it's tough right now. I understand what's going on in the world. I'm not going to get too political on that. But right now, like at Crispi, we're holding our prices right now because we feel like we can absorb that a little bit for the short period. But for long term, we would have to make an adjustment if the tariffs stay in place. Specifically, the reciprocal tariff. The current tariff that we've always paid is no big deal. But the reciprocal tariff right there it's expensive, and it's tough right now a little bit. And so we're hoping that obviously this tariff situation can get resolved in the next 2 to 3 weeks is kind of what we're hearing. We watch it very, very closely every day. And there again, we hope that it can get resolved and do that. But for now, we're going to hold pricing as is. It's a lot of work to change pricing across the country and through all of our wholesale accounts and across the country and our website. And just it's a lot of work. And so for now, we're just going to hold it and kind of see where things shake out over the next few weeks.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I kind of slipped. I got to remember to ask that question a little more, because I get that asked of me. I'm like, I don't know. I just have these people on the podcast. I don't work for their company, so because no matter like what, when you're in the outdoor industry, when you're purchasing something, whether it be tariffs or whatever the case may be, the effect of the pricing to the consumer. I'll give you an example. Bow companies, right? The crossbow has affected compound bows more than people probably will ever realize, because the piece of the pie that a boat company may have, whether that be Hoyt or Matthews or whoever, it's still the same size, a piece of the pie. But that piece of the pie is much smaller in the grand scheme of things because so many people are buying crossbows, and I would say that's affected the cost of a compound bow because a lot of people are buying crossbows now. Tariffs are another thing. Like, you can absorb it for a little bit, but you can't absorb it forever because you go bankrupt. And so, I mean, I appreciate that you guys are holding pricing to see what shakes out, but if nothing changes, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. You're going to have to pay a little bit more, for your product. And again, when I say that, meaning somebody's going to message me for sure and say, well, why don't you make boots in America? Well, I can tell you why. It's almost fucking impossible. Just like clothing. And so, sorry about the F word. You could. It will be far more expensive than what you're doing now because Mark would have to invest, I don't know, $10 million into a facility, all of the machinery needed to do that. It could be well over 10 million. Then train people how to do it. And not just like you're talking all the machines for Gore-Tex, sewing the leather, everything, and then hire engineers to do it. And the people overseas, when I say overseas, I'm talking China, like in Italy specifically, they already have it figured out. So to make an American-made boot, I would say it'd be double the cost of what you'll know more than me. I would say it would be double the cost. A truly made in America boot would be double the cost of what's overseas right now. And I say that in Europe.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, first of all, we don't have the expertise here. Let's just be frank. We do not have the boot building expertise. We do not. Number two is we don't have the equipment. There's equipment here.
And when Mark says we, he's not talking Crispi, America, not Crispi.
We're talking America.
Yeah, America.
Right? Yeah, 100%. And we just don't. And for us to say, listen, we're going to ramp up a facility here in the United States, and we're going to get all the equipment here, the lasting equipment, everything with it. You're 2 to 3 years before you get that thing up and running. And then to find the people that can run that equipment and can understand how to build boots. And, we're a hand-built boot company. And so, the guy that's putting the rubber rand around that boot, this is a guy that's, in an apprenticeship for 18 to 24 months, just watching and working with the guy that has been there for 15, 20 years, putting a rand on a boot. It's not something you just throw a guy in and just say, oh, hey, throw that rand on that boot. It's going to be great. It's a really precise job. And so we just don't have what it takes to be able to produce the stuff here in the United States and the experience. It's just like a company, right? You're going to hire a guy with experience. You're going to hire a guy with no experience. Well, a guy with experience is going to help really elevate your business and your brand. And so I think that for us, trying to build in the United States is, as most people that know that are in manufacturing, we can't compete. We just don't have, first of all, we don't have the facilities. We don't have the labor force. Products would be quadruple to the price if we even tried to produce some of this stuff in the United States. So as much as I would love to do it, and I'm American made for sure, but it is, some of these things we just can't compete on. And I'll be honest with you, Aaron, I feel my heart goes out to these brands that, are trying to produce stuff, in, the Pacific Rim. These tariffs it's going to make it very, very challenging, and prices of goods across the board, regardless of the good, potentially will continue to rise because you won't be able to afford to stay in business with the tariffs at the current situation that they're at.
Yeah. No, and that's a fact. And not to be doom and gloom, something needed to be done, whether or not what's going on now is going to fix it. Because, again, not to get political, it's definitely making a hard, fast stance of we want to go to the bargaining table. We're tired of dealing with your shit. Will that pan out? I'm assuming it will, but it's basically like you're standing up to a bully and we're going to make a stance of we're not putting up with this shit anymore. So if it works out like planned, it should be very good. We just have to wait to see. So,
yeah, I think they said it right up. It's going to be hard for a little bit, and it is. We're taking it on the chin, every single week when a container shows up, and it's like, oh man, that is super expensive. But I think for the overall good, I hope this shakes out, like you said, for everybody, right? For everything, right? I mean, we need a lot of those trading partners just like they need us. And, at the end of the day, it's, like I said, my heart goes out to, these companies because, I respect everybody that has a business and they're trying to grow a business and they work hard at that business. You work hard at it. I work hard at it. A lot of other people, our competitors, work hard at it. There's a respect there. It's not, it's not like, hey, we're so cutthroat. It's like, man, we want people to be successful, just like we want other boot brands to be successful too, because if they're successful, we are successful as well. And so I think that for us is really an important thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that as time goes on, that'll kind of that big bag of snakes will roll out straight and we'll figure it out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to, cover. I didn't want to keep you on here for forever, but again, I've known Mark for a long time and I've worn Crispis off and on since you guys came out with them. And I mean, in reality, I've worn the brick style probably more than anything, but I'm very particular. So I've done probably 3 videos now on that Alpine Pro, cause I just didn't think it would ever take the place, of the other boot for my serious kind of mountain hunting boot, which it has. And as I say that, read about it before you go buy it. It is a very unique boot, right? And I don't want you to get one and be like, Snyder sucks, this doesn't fit my foot. But for me, that boot has been pretty amazing. So
good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Heck yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. And can you give everybody the website and all the normal crap where they can go, follow Crispi and look at the website, that stuff?
Yeah, it's crispiusa.com and then hashtag Crispi Hunting on Instagram. So, we appreciate having on air. It's, you've been a good partner of ours and, we've enjoyed, everything you've done for us, and mainly the feedback, right, for us specifically has been really great. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say you've always liked it, but you've always received it. And when I say that, like, I'm very hard on footwear.
We respect it. No, we respect it. So you have to, right? Because if we think we're building the perfect boot for everybody, we would be foolish. And so we have, from people, the end user, exactly, the thoughts and what's coming back to us so we can improve it. So, and it's been fun for us. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, same here. Well, all right, everybody, I appreciate you tuning in. Mark, thanks again for hopping on. Everybody, check out Crispi USA. If you have questions, certainly can message me on Instagram, and I'll help you out as much as I possibly can. But the Crispi, their customer service is great, so you can always get a hold of them as well. But yeah, dude, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate the friendship.
Likewise, we appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you.
Yep, take it easy.
Bye-bye.